Bro, tell me.
Hi guys, I'm Lonnie,
I'm Nat.
and welcome to
Bro.
Timmy.
Yay.
Okay, so today, what are we going to be talking about?
I was really surprised, but Lonnie told me that she wanted to talk about spirituality.
Yes, because I just listened to a podcast by Trevor Noah today, actually. I was talking with one of my students and she picked this one, and I thought it was actually pretty interesting. It's the one with Rainn Wilson and the meaning of life. So,
Ooh. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, what about the conversation trigger you to wanting to converse about it?
just some interesting things that I don't think I'd really considered before, like the
Mhm.
differences between spirituality and religion, between meditation and prayer. I came to you because I know you're such a spiritual person. And yeah, why not discuss this topic with someone who's super
Into
stoked
it.
to talk about it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was looking at the differences before this recording between spirituality and religion. And it seems to me, and you can tell me your outlook, Nat, but it seems to me that religion is more of kind of like, yeah, it seems like just a very didactic practice where people turn to it for the set of rules, for what is right, what is wrong, for where to lead themselves in life. And then spirituality is more where people see how they fit into society, their community, into the universe, into their world, whatever their beliefs are, their values, their soul leads them in the direction of, I guess. So how do you feel about what my interpretation of it is and what I've understood from gathering answers and then your own?
I think in logical definition, that makes sense. Like to see it straightforward as it is, that's what it looks like, right? Like religions are structured and spirituality is more like the exploration of your own being, right? But how I see it, I'm going to talk about how I think religions come about. But since the beginning of time, humans are trying to understand ourselves. We have urges of animals, but we are so aware. We have the animal urges, but we have so much more emotions and like thoughts and feelings and awareness that animals don't. And I think that this exploration has been going on since the beginning of time where people are trying to understand themselves. Like, why do I feel so much? And I think there's only one truth, right? And there are people who have discovered that truth, but they are from different parts of the world. Like Jesus, Buddhist was like a prince, right? Prince Siddhartha or something, and then people in India with I mean, Buddhism also started in India, but like Hinduism and Judaism and stuff like that. These are just different people who discover the same truth in different ways. They discover how to unlock this answer of how to balance the like being in an animal body and being so aware, and then they taught it that way, to the people. And keep in mind, these people are like on different parts of the world, right? And then they preach it to the people around them because they're like, hey, like I've discovered this within myself. Like if you guys learn this too, it will bring you peace, which is like what every human wants. We want to feel like we want to be closer to peace. I don't think that these people ever had an intention to create religion. They just wanted to pass on the practice that would help everyone connect to their core, to their heart, to the spiritual being inside them. Like we're human beings with spiritual connection inside us. And they wanted to teach us how to connect to the spiritual connection, but inside us. So they pass that on. And then people, with their ego, they're like, oh, like my teacher is the best teacher. So my teacher is the only one who's teaching the truth, not realizing that there's a person on the other side of the world who discovered the same thing and is maybe teaching it in a little bit different way. But then over time, religion evolves because of the human ego. Even when these teachers die, right, people are passing their teaching, but they're passing these teaching in an egotistic way. where it becomes like, oh, this is the absolute truth and teaching, and your truth is wrong and my truth is right. And but that was never the intention of the people who started the religion. They
Mhm.
never wanted to start a religion. They just wanted to pass on the teaching.
Right. You're saying they were just more in the spiritual sense. They were searching for answers, but then
Yeah,
religion was
exactly.
born from their search, and people just kind of interpret it as
Yes,
their practice being the practice.
yes. So actually, there are a lot of proofs that Jesus actually was preaching reincarnation. But the Roman Empire didn't like that, because if people knew that they could reincarnate, then they wouldn't listen to the Roman Empire, because then that means they have the power to do things differently, doing things over. So the Roman Empire took that out from the original script, and told people that you only have one chance. So you better listen to our church or you're going to hell. That's why they took out reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's been evolved over time. The Bible has been translated like how many freaking times? You know what I mean? Like it's just a lot of things got lost in the way.
I find it just interesting how with all of these religions, because right, the person, the entity, let's say it's Siddhartha Gautama, it's Jesus, it's whomever, right? The messenger, let's say, of these religions, they had no intention to control people,
They
right?
did not. Yeah.
And what the people who interpreted these spiritual beliefs, these spiritual practices did was they said, we can control people and make them follow us, right? And it's just
Yeah.
so insane how these things, how people try to maybe not monopolize, but like they use certain things that people kind of connect to, they're drawn to in order to control a mass of people. And essentially that's so in the episode, what they were talking about was basically when we worship things, right? Like what humans have worshipped has evolved. So, for example, back then it was religion, and so they would worship the gods who were spiritual enough to give them that religion. And today, what do you think is the thing that people have just been growing to worship the most?
I listened to a little bit of the podcast, so I think I'm cheating a little bit, but
Yeah. I just thought this was such
technology.
like, yeah, technology and money, right? So who are our gods now?
Like the people who have the loudest voices are the ones with money, or are the ones who are controlling technology, you know, or are the ones who are the most beautiful looking people, you know. And some of these people, can I say names?
Sure.
Like Andrew Tate is spreading messages of division, and now we're listening to these people who are our gods.
I feel like those people are actually leading us back to fear, right? So essentially the reason why we follow a lot of things is because we are afraid of whatever, losing something, not having enough of something, dying. We're afraid of all of these things, and they grasp onto that fear to control us, to lead us to follow them, to lead us to believe that their practice is the best practice. But that's also leading us away from spirituality.
Yeah.
And
fear is actually causing separation.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is why if we ever, no, let me scratch that. This is why when you and I have a loud voice, we're going to spread something different. We want to promote like people having different ideas, but uniting, right? At the same time, like respecting each other. And, you know, like that's what humans are supposed to do. We're supposed to help each other out.
Exactly. So as you guys have probably seen in our episodes, Nat and I have very differing values for some of the topics, but we still gather together. Here we are. Still, here we are. Still having the conversations every time.
Yeah, I think that's how we grow. As humans, as spiritual beings, we grow through relating to each other. We grow through mirroring to each other, right? Like if Lani does something I don't agree with, I might be like, Lani, I don't think you're doing the right thing. And then she gets to like reflect on it. Or if I'm doing something that she feels like it's not loving to myself, she'll be like, nah, I don't think you're loving yourself. And then I get to reflect on it. And then we get to grow, you know?
Exactly. Okay, so then with all that, what was your journey arriving here to this conclusion about spirituality and religion?
Mm-hmm. So I was born in a Buddhist family. Most of my childhood, I went to a Catholic school. My family was really open about religions. They just taught me, like whatever religion teaches you to be a good person, then that's a good religion. So I was always open minded, but I always felt a little bit of connection with God in my Catholic school too. But I never really explored it more than that. And then as I was growing up, as a teenager, being rebellious and everything, trying to be cool and going through like a shit of heartbreaks and like family drama and being in victim mindhood because you're a teenager, so you're like, why did this happen to me? So I was like agnostic for a long time, and then I met a guy who was really religious and got me to think about like having faith, because I had no faith in anything but myself, and every time I failed it was like the end of the world. I was like, oh my god, everything's over, you know what I mean? But this guy was always like, I have faith, and I was like, what the fuck? But I was like, okay, well, maybe like this is something to look into. And then I found Joe Dispenza, who relates like spirituality with science, and I was like a science brainiac at that time, so I was like, oh, quantum physics, and I was like, okay, maybe there is something out there. Became agnostic, and then eventually through like a series of praying and trying to find the truth, believe in God, and then through finding out like what works or what doesn't work, like law of attraction definitely does not work for me. It gives me a lot of anxiety, because every time I felt something bad, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna attract more bad stuff, it's gonna attract more shit. And you can tell me about it later too, because I feel like everyone who has an experience of law of attraction feels that, and then feeling like that didn't work for me, and eventually become more in touch with all of my emotions, like the good and the bad, and embracing all of it, and just believing that all the emotions are leading me to what is meant for my heart, which is my current spiritual belief today. How about you, Lani?
I like how you said that kind of like your spirituality brings about what is meant for your heart, right? So I kind of relate that to exactly just being true to whatever I want. And we've talked about this in other episodes. How as long as I know what I want, what I deserve, it's going to come to me. And as long as I put those same frequencies out there, right, for the things that I want, is that as long as I emit those energies for the things that I want and the things that I deserve, and I know that those are the things that I also want to give, then I will receive them. They'll come, they'll find me, I'll find them, we'll meet, we'll have a party of energy. But how did I arrive
a cocktail
here?
Of energy.
Yeah, cocktail of energies. I love it.
I have a question before you go into your journey, because that sounds like law of attraction, right? Do you ever feel anxious when you start feeling like negative emotions? I think what I'm looking for is like for someone to tell me too that like they also had a point where they felt anxious about the law of attraction. I don't know if maybe you haven't experienced that.
It's not anxiety or nervousness that I feel, but I do know what you're talking about. So for example, whenever, because I do think about law of attraction sometimes, and I guess that's where my whole, if I believe that I deserve it, it'll comes from. But so when I do think the negative thoughts about it, or if I question if I deserve something, I do think to myself like, no, Lonnie, only good energies, only good energies. That I'm hitting my hand a little hard, but I don't beat myself up for that, don't worry. But,
we've seen this twice already, so I'm not super convinced.
But yeah, no, definitely. I do understand what that feels like, but I wouldn't say that it brings up a lot of anxiety, because when I realize that that thing's happening, I'm trying to wonder and remind myself, like, do I need to be thinking like this? Or why am I thinking like this? And this is going to go off topic, so it's just, I'm going to touch on it, but I feel like that's where a lot of self-sabotage comes from, is kind of questioning your worth and everything. And then you just kind of fuck things up that way. Oop, is there duck things up that way? I don't
I think
yeah.
we've cussed enough on this
True.
podcast too.
Very true. But yeah.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about my journey of how I've gotten here, I used to be religious when I was younger. I grew up Catholic, and then as an early adult, I ended up gravitating toward more Christianity. Thanks. But and then I don't know, I noticed that a lot of those practices, or a lot of the people who represented those religions, were kind of hypocritical, contradictory, and I kind of grew to feel like I didn't really need religion to be spiritual. I still believed in things. I still wanted to figure out where I fit in society, my community, in the universe. I wanted to understand things still. And I feel like that's what people are also doing with religion. They want to understand life and where they belong. And I felt like I could still do that without religion. And so that's where I am now. And I've been thinking that way, I think, since early adulthood. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you need to have religion or even know that, even like define yourself as spiritual to be spiritual. Like if you're working on understanding who you are and what you want and like going after it, like what your heart truly wants, you're being spiritual. You don't need to define yourself as being spiritual, because we're all just we
We're
have that
being.
inside us. Yeah, we're being.
Yeah.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
don't have to. It's good to have that faith outside of you, because when something fails, then like I said, you don't feel like everything crumbles and like, oh no, like everything's all on me and it's all done, like, yeah, I think that's the benefit of like having that faith of something outside of you. But other than that, I don't think you don't have to put definitions on anything.
I think you bring a good point. Like, it's just, exactly, people are just trying to understand themselves, where they fit, what their purpose is, right? Everyone's always asking, what is the purpose of life? And there doesn't have to be even just one purpose of life, I don't think. But it just, what is your purpose? What is your desire? What
feels like home to your heart?
What brings
right?
peace? Yeah, exactly. No, I like that. Yeah. What feels like home to your heart, to your soul.
Yeah. And that might be, traveling all the time, or being a doctor. Like I see so many people on Twitter talking about like, you have to be an entrepreneur because otherwise you're a loser because you went to school forever and then now you're not making as much money. Like, no, like anyone can be whatever the hell you want to be. An entrepreneur that feels like peace to your heart, be that. Like if you want to be a doctor that feels like peace to your heart, be that. Like you want to be an accountant that feels like peace to your heart, be an accountant. Like there's no right or wrong.
If you're an accountant and that brings peace to your heart, props to you, kudos to you, because wow. Wow. Hold on. Yeah. Like how we did it at the same time. Bringing peace to your heart, I feel like we lose that in today's society, because a lot of people are just, they see people living life, whatever that means to them. But living life doesn't have to be traveling. Living life doesn't have to be having the best outfits every day. Living life doesn't have to be consistently networking or whatever with the biggest job, or imbibing in the finest drinks or whatever. Living life means filling your heart, I think, personally, because you're not living unless you actually are enjoying the things that are around you, unless you're actually being present. If you're always on the future, you're out there, you're not here, you're not now.
Yeah. And I also struggle with that, so that's something I'm working on too.
Yeah. I feel
fear of the future, and
I don't know, I feel like I've really been trying to work on being more present.
Me too, yeah.
Because the future really gives me anxiety sometimes.
And the thing is, like, why are we anxious? Like, we don't even know what's gonna happen? Like, why are we
Yeah.
anxious about something that's not happening? We're creating trauma for ourselves, you know? Like,
It's so true. No, because okay, here's the thing. I don't know if you're the same, but my plans have so frequently just changed up on me. It's like I really feel like the universe loves to fuck with me, because anytime I make a plan for something, the universe is like, actually, what about this? We're just gonna plot twist for you. We're gonna steer the cauldron. And so I just got fed up going on these like highs and lows, ups and downs, this fucking roller coaster of life and emotion, that I was like, okay, you know what? Universe. It's not that I really let go of the wheel, but I just try to remind myself what I truly want in life, the emotions that I want to feel, the things that I want to be surrounded by, but not the materialistic things that I want to be surrounded by, but just the feelings that I want to feel. And so as long as I feel those things, then I feel okay. But as far as like the making plans, I had to just like, I made a plan and I just told myself, okay, you know what? If the plan doesn't go as planned, there are no problems, only solutions. This is where that fucking saying comes from, because I'm telling you,
now
like,
we're seeing the whole picture.
yeah, that the roller coaster
Yeah.
just like fucked me up so many times. But I think that's why I feel all my emotions in my stomach, because of that fucking roller coaster.
Because your life is a roller coaster. That
But
makes
yeah.
sense. I actually really like that point, because I wasn't. I don't know if you know who Healthy Gamer GG is, but he's like a psychiatrist, a doctor, and he's spiritual, so he relates like psychiatry and spirituality, and I love people who do that because it's so interesting how they actually intersect.
Mhm.
And he was saying that you can't control your outcome, you can only control what you do. Even as doctors, you can't control if this person's gonna live or die. There's some force outside of you. That's you cannot fight that. You can only do your best, and if that person dies, then you couldn't have stopped that. You know, like he's like, I work with like top surgeons in the world, and sometimes you just can't save the person. Like it's outside of your hand. And that's how I try to think of like my future, like even landing my podcast, like trying to do everything I'm doing. I'm just like, okay, like I'm doing everything I could, so now I have to let go, because I can't control people to see my emails or my DMs.
Really, it is just like, you can only do your best, right? You can do the things with the knowledge and the resources that you're equipped with, and then after that, you just have to kind of, unfortunately,
you have to
let go.
Yeah.
Be free.
Yeah. Be free. Let it go.
Let it go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then,
next question.
What are your spiritual practices? What are our spiritual practices? What are spiritual practices?
My spiritual practices now is meditation, because meditation helps you practice mindfulness, which means you are more in tune with your emotion. When something is coming up, when you meditate, you know the baseline of peace, right? So when something boils up just a little bit, you're like, huh, like you catch it quick. You know what I mean? That's how I catch it.
With just a finger.
Yeah. Okay. So once I catch like negative emotions or thoughts coming up, I let myself feel it. I let myself feel it fully. I don't stop myself from feeling it. But what I control is not adding more thoughts into it. Right? So let's say there was a thought like, oh my God, like, why did my life is run by romantic relationships, so why did he do this to me, right? And I start feeling sad. I let myself cry, but I'm not gonna add more thoughts into it. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, like I'm a victim and he's a blah 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 blah. No, I just like, okay, you feel sad, okay, let's cry, cry. Emotions don't last forever, so once like it leaves your body, then you feel like, okay, you come more to like your baseline state, and then that's when you can shift your thoughts. I don't think you can shift your thoughts right away especially if you're feeling really intense negative emotions, I don't think you can just be like, no, I'm good. Like, you can't be like that. It doesn't work. Like, you have to wait for it to leave your body, and then you reason with yourself. Like, okay, we had that thought. Why do we think that? Is that true? What, yeah. How about, is that all my practice? Yeah, and then realizing what I want. Just one more thing. Realizing what I want. I think realizing my heart's desires is like prayers to me, if that makes sense. And I don't have like specific time for praying because I talk to God all the time, and like sometimes I'll cuss him out because I'm like, what the fuck, God? Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sometimes I'm like, are we enjoying this right now? Are we enjoying this? Like,
No, definitely.
yeah, so that's, I don't have like dedicated time for like prayer. How about you? Like, what do you feel? Because you asked me this question.
Yeah.
What do you feel is the difference between prayer and meditation? So like, what's your mindset on that? What's your thoughts on that led you to ask that question?
So I never really thought about the difference until I listened to the podcast today. And in the podcast they were saying how, and obviously like it's kind of just an opinion I think that they were sharing, but they were saying how prayer was more of asking for things, and then meditation was more listening. However, I don't completely agree, because when I pray, I do a mix of meditation in my prayer, I guess. So because I guess what I would say I mostly do is pray, but it's not to ask for things, or at least not to ask for things for me. But a majority of my prayer, I would say prayer is more of a conversation for me with the energies around, let's say. And so my prayer consists of expressing gratitude for everything that I have, for everything around me, for everything that my family and friends have, my loved ones, the people that, literally the people around me, even people that I just met. I might be like, and I had a conversation with that person, I'd be like, oh yeah, thanks for this thing that they're really excited about, literally just throwing gratitude into the air. You get gratitude, you get,
T-shirts.
Imagine just like a t-shirt with thank you. But so that's what my prayer is. And then also just kind of asking for things for other people, because I don't know, I'm really just thankful for all of the things that I have. On a rare occasion, I'll just be like, if there's something that I really, really, really want, and I feel like I don't have enough of the belief in me or energy in me alone to attract whatever that thing is, then I'll throw it into the air and say, or into the ether and say like, oh, please, 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 can I get this thing, right? Or that's when I would ask for things. But generally it's throwing good vibes into the air for whatever my friends or family or loved ones need help with, whether it's like being healed of some type of emotion, or what's it called, finding peace with whatever's going on in their life, stuff like that. So that's my prayer. And then the meditation comes in for that, for just kind of being aware of the things around me. But I have meditated in general, and with my meditations on that, I think I don't know if it's a superficial type of meditation, but I'll kind of like close my eyes, take a walk around, pretend I can imagine whatever is around me, and like I'm actually I'm standing up, I'm exiting a room and stuff like that. That's what my meditations look like.
Yeah. I think meditating is really like being present. So like however you do that, like it's is it, And I think you can definitely do both at the same time, because meditating is just being aware and being present and mindful. So if you're praying and then there's a thought that feels like a message or a guidance comes up, like, and you receive it because you're so in the present that you're able to hear it, Yeah. What would you say to people who are angry at each other because they don't have the same religion?
I mean, anytime there's anger involved or sad, if there's an uncomfortable feeling involved, I always try to find solutions. Like I'm a very logical person in that sense. So, for example, what I would tell someone who is angry at someone else because they don't follow the same religion, I would try to point out very like similarities between each other's religions.
That's good.
Yeah. And also saying like, okay, so they don't believe this certain thing about whatever you do, but you also don't believe that. And then try to show them how it could possibly work with whatever they've got going on in their lives. Yeah. What would you say? Do? Can't we all just
I
get
would
along?
slap both of them.
Okay, a little more violent. Got it. Like the Crusaders. Okay, got it.
No, I'm just kidding. I think I would say that we're all humans. We're all just trying to figure out what the fuck is going on inside us. If your religion gives you peace, then that's good. If her religion gives, or his or her, their religion gives them peace, then that's good for them. Like, don't you want that peace inside for another human? Doesn't matter the difference in beliefs. In the end, if we feel peace inside, then we can spread the peace. Right? Then when we treat other people better, we have better life, we have better success. So if you know how it feels to not be at peace, how painful it feel, how bad it feel as a human, because we're all human, if you know how that feels and you know that something gives you peace, don't you want another person to find peace too? Yeah. Even though it might be different from you. That was so good. I just
you know what? Actually, sorry, you just reminded me of this. It's a fan fiction. It's called The Egg. This is also another thing.
I heard,
The egg.
My friend was telling me about.
No,
no. My friend told me about that. Yeah.
I love talking about this, but maybe we can talk about the egg in our next episode.
Okay, I guess that's the end of our episode. We don't know how to end it because we have so much to say, so we're just gonna end it like this.
Okay. Okay, so I guess that's the end of our episode. Thanks for listening, guys. And if you feel like this message resonates with you, check out our other videos. And
if you feel like this video would be helpful to other people, feel free to like and share.
Yes. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.